my friends, this is Otaku Cook and today I'll be making Japanese Korokke. So let's get right into it. So we will begin by cutting our vegetables and our aromatics. You will require to cut 2 to 3 large potatoes in big chunks. Don't worry about how you cut them right now. In the end, they are going to be mashed anyways. We are only doing this so that we could speed up the cooking process, and it would be easier for us to mash it later. Next, you need to roughly chop 1 onion. Before you start cutting the cabbage, you need to prepare some ice water and keep it next to you. Now for the cabbage, we're using this for garnish. So this process is completely optional. You can skip this if you want, but if you are going to stick with it, you need to shred this as finely as possible. Once you are done shredding with the desired amount of cabbage, immediately put it in the ice water. Now lastly, you can chop your garlic. Don't skimp on this because you'll require a lot of it. And you need to chop this as fine as possible. Now finally you can start by cooking your potatoes. You need to cook them in chicken stock or chicken broth. Over here I'm using chicken broth, but it doesn't matter either ways. What matters is that the chicken stock or broth that you're using needs to be cold or at least at room temperature. Now you need to make sure that you're not completely submerging your potatoes in your stock or broth. You need to submerge them partially and let it boil. And let the potatoes absorb the liquid. Of course, you can add some more gradually, but be careful to not add too much liquid in it. You need to cook them until they are fork tender and the liquid is completely absorbed. So make sure that you keep an eye on it. Now, because I'm using chicken broth, I'm not adding any salt right now. But if you're using chicken stock, make sure that you add some salt. Also, make sure that you keep moving the potatoes as they boil. You don't want them to burn at the bottom. Once the potatoes are done, remove them from the stove and start mashing them immediately. This will help release some steam, reducing some moisture. Also, since the potatoes are hot, they will be easier for you to mash. Now that we are done with our potatoes, we can start with the meat. We will start by melting some butter. When the butter is completely melted, you can add your chopped onion and cook it until it gets translucent. Make sure that you keep moving it so that it doesn't burn. When your onion gets translucent, add your chopped garlic. You need to cook your onion and garlic until they turn golden. Once that happens, add your minced meat. Now it doesn't matter what you're going to add. I'm using buffalo mince. You can use chicken or pork. If you don't want to add any meat, that's fine. You can substitute it with boiled cauliflower, carrot, and peas. Now I am using 500 grams of buffalo mince over here, which might seem a lot, but because we are going to cook this through, it is going to lose out a lot of moisture, reducing its volume. Of course, you don't have to use this much amount of meat. In fact, you just don't have to use one type of meat. You can always mix match. You can always do chicken and pork or buffalo and pork. Make sure that when you are mixing up two types of meats, you are using one that has a good amount of fat in it and one has good amount of flavor in it. When your meat gets brown, you can now season it with salt and pepper. And be sure that you are generous with your salt and pepper. Especially with the pepper, use a good amount of it. Now that your meat is nice and brown, we can start making our korokke, which from now on is a very straightforward process. Because korokke is nothing but a Japanese way of making croquettes. So the process from now on is very straightforward. All you need to do is mix your meat and potatoes until they are completely combined. And by combining, I mean mashing them together properly. So there is no gentle or polite way of doing this, even though this is a Japanese recipe. Just mix it together properly so that we can shape them. When you're done mixing it, and before you shape it, make sure that you check for the seasoning. See if you require any more salt or pepper. If you do, feel free to add it. Over here, I did require to add a little more salt, so I added some and made sure that all the salt is completely incorporated with the mixture. Now we can make the korokke, which is very simple. All we have to do is take a handful of that mixture and turn it into a ball. Make sure that you press it nice and tightly so that when you fry it, it doesn't crumble. When your mixture is nicely packed, you can give it a better shape. It should look like a oval hockey puck, which is thick, oval, but a little flat in the middle. And that's all to it. By the way, you can shape it the way you like. If you don't want them oval, don't make them oval. Just make them circle or square or whatever. It's your choice. Once you shape them, put them in the fridge so that they tighten up a little. Meanwhile, you can start making the sauce, which is very simple. If you have followed my okonomiyaki recipe, this is basically the same sauce. A little tweaked, of course. All you need to put together is 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 tablespoon of ketchup, and 1 tablespoon of mustard. And that's it. Your korokke sauce is ready. Remove your korokke after 25 to 30 minutes. And then you can start coating them with breadcrumbs. Now ideally you need panko breadcrumbs, but unfortunately I couldn't get any. In fact, I couldn't get even the regular ones. So in a pinch I had to make these breadcrumbs on my own. But if you can get panko, your dish is going to be much better than mine. So for applying breadcrumbs, it's very straightforward. I am using flour, egg wash and breadcrumbs. And the technique I am using is called dry hand, wet hand method, which is very simple. All you have to do is make sure that you only use one hand to dip your korokke in flour and breadcrumbs, and the other one to dip your korokke in the egg wash, so that your hand doesn't clump up and make a mess. Now when you're done with the breading, you can start with the frying. Heat up some oil, any neutral oil would do. I'm using groundnut oil, but you can use any vegetable or sunflower oil as long as it has a high smoking point. Just carefully lower your korokke and let it fry. You can occasionally turn it, but make sure that you only put one at a time. It is important that it gets a nice golden brown crust. And when your korokke gets nice and golden brown, you can start serving it. Now serve your korokke with your crispy cabbage, with a few slices of tomato, with your korokke sauce and mayonnaise on the side, and enjoy. Hope that you liked this video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and also make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. This is Otaku Cook. Until next time.